when I was growing up, like the older moms, like the grandmoms and the aunts and that kind of thing would actually help you raise your child and help you with
Mhm.
whatever issues that come up and that kind of thing. But no, I don't know. Again, I don't know how it is. That's not the setup in most homes. So that's why community became like such an important and fulfilling thing for me.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer. I'm so glad you're here. I'm a physician, mom, life coach, musician, author, publisher, and I am passionate about using storytelling as a tool to help you reclaim your story and build your most beautiful future. Now, today on the show, I am so excited to have a special guest, Mialisa Garnes. Mialisa Garnes is the founder of the Wellness Growth Agency, where they focus on empowering women-centered health and wellness businesses. Mialisa also has a wonderful podcast, the Wellness and Growth Journeys podcast, which I was fortunate to be a guest on back in 2024. So make sure to go back and listen to that episode. It was really fun, and we'll talk about today why it was particularly special. Now, on her podcast, she highlights the journeys of women who work in the health and wellness sector and lends them a space to share their voices, which is painfully missing in many sectors now. And we really need to work together to bring that back to the forefront. Melissa, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Oh, I love that introduction.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm so excited to have you here. And as we were discussing off camera before we came on the show today, one of the things that I just so appreciate about you, and I would love to share with our audience and explain why they need to subscribe to your podcast, follow you on LinkedIn, and follow your journey, is because you are truly intrinsically have the capacity to be a community builder.
Yes, thank you for that. And community, I didn't realize was such a big thing until I got pregnant. So it's a
Mm,
lot of different things. So it was pregnancy, and then it was during COVID as well, right? So you didn't have that village that everyone talks about when you're pregnant, when you're having your first baby, and that kind of thing. And I guess I started to feel lonely in that aspect and craved, other women's, advice and opinions and that kind of thing. Yes, you could pick up your phone and call somebody, but it was something more, I guess, intimate that I really wanted. And somebody and people who wouldn't kind of judge what you're going through either. So, and people who might be going along the journey with you, because, like, say, like you might call a friend and she had her kid like 2 years ago, and she's like, "Oh, I forgot about how that was," or "I can't
mm,
remember what I did," that kind of thing. So, I did join a community of moms whose babies were due the same time. So, like, we were kind of going through it together. And I found that so helpful, especially in the first months after I gave birth. And then there were other communities around that, I identified with. Like, there's a group that I'm in. It's like old moms. So moms
mm,
over 35. So whatever issues that we struggle with as women over a certain age, like especially being a mom, and society frowns on older moms in a way, right? Because we're labeled as a geriatric pregnancy.
mm,
We might harm our baby more because our bodies are getting older. I'm not really sure what the science is, but the OBGYN says that, like, you're at risk, your baby is at risk for more things happening because you are older. And there's like this shame, kind of, our guilt. It's like, oh, I should have had my kids early then because I am the problem, or I am the
mm.
problem. But like the community setting just kind of helped each kind of, I guess, roadblock or doubt or concern that you would have. And I mean, and they would take pictures. Hey, ladies, do you know what this is? And then like all the moms would be like, hey, okay, that looks like a rash. maybe you should get that checked out. Or I really think that you should go to the doctor. Oh, my kid had that, and this is what I did, right? And it was just like a really good supportive and calming in a way that you are not freaking out for no reason or
Mm.
you know, just that kind of support that you kind of need in certain instances because we don't have the makeup like we had before. I don't know how it is in the US, but when I was growing up, like the older moms, like the grandmoms and the aunts and that kind of thing, would actually help you raise your child and help you with
Mm.
whatever issues that come up and that kind of thing. But no, I don't know. Again, I don't know how it is. That's not the setup in most homes. So that's why community became like such an important and fulfilling thing for me.
Wow, I love that reflection that you just shared with us. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about this element of shame and guilt that we feel, and how interesting it was that that was an emotion, a sensation, a feeling that you experienced more so in isolation.
Yeah,
But when you surrounded yourself with other people going through that same season of life, or maybe just slightly ahead of you, slightly behind you, it created this support network, and the shame and the guilt and the blame could go away, and you could focus on solving the problems, connecting on the issues, and helping support one another
yeah,
through those. And that's just the beautiful part of community.
yeah, yeah. Because you think about things like, just the little nuances that come up when you have a little one, for instance. They don't latch properly. They spit up a lot, and like well, I can't remember the call we call it like nothing stays down, so you don't know if they're getting enough nutrient. I mean, there's so many things that, and I wasn't ready. That's the other thing. I wasn't
Mm,
I wasn't mentally prepared for that load. It just kind of
mm,
like it just kind of swooped in on
yeah.
me from the time he popped out. He popped out, and I was like, I gotta protect this tiny human with my life. I gotta make
Mm.
sure that he is alive and he is fed and he is good because he can't do it himself.
Yeah, exactly. I think we all need that first week of life after our baby is born. We need our frontliners. We need to have that set up, and our community needs to tell us, hey, you need to have a list of 2, 3, 4 women who've gone through this before that you can call anytime, day or night. And especially if not, and it doesn't matter if you're in tears and you're like naked, breastfeeding, screaming because you've lost your mind because nothing's going well. You're so sleep deprived, and you just need to talk to someone who will understand and support you. Maybe they don't know what to tell you to get through, but they can just hear you and sit in that space with you because your partner can't necessarily. And I really, truly believe everyone needs that person. And I remember so vividly the women that I called that week. And I didn't have it prepared myself, but a woman who had gone through a pregnancy approximately a year before me, and a quite difficult birth experience and difficulty with latching, like you mentioned, she contacted me before the baby came and said, hey, just so you know, you can call me day or night that first week. No big deal. Just it will happen. And by the way, here's some La Leche League support documents for breastfeeding and things, just so you're prepared. And I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be fine. I'm a doctor. I know. Yeah, I'm prepared. I know what to expect. I've read the books, what to expect when you're expecting. I'm prepared, but thank you so much. And then that first week hit me like a ton of bricks. And like you said, my baby was not latching properly, no matter. I mean, I felt like I was holding her upside down, anything I could do to try to make it work. And it wasn't working. And I was so terrified for her. And I was so upset with myself and just at the brink. And I remember texting my friend, thank goodness for, this is one of the good things about cell phones is that when you're nursing, you can have your cell phone and be texting and reading the La Leche League support manual and things like that. Thank goodness I had her to help guide me through that and just simply support me and say, yep, this happens a lot. The baby will survive. You will survive. Just keep going. You're doing great. That's what I needed. And then when my friends were having pregnancies and expecting, I made a habit, which I learned from her. So again, building this community of saying, even to people I didn't even know that well, just so you know, if you need someone to call and scream at and just cry and then hang up the phone after 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the middle of the night, the first week you have the baby, add me to your list. I'm here for you. And they take you up on the offer. And I know that it helps them get through that first week. And it's not even about actionable advice all the time. Sometimes it's just about that support of other women who know what you're going through.
Agreed, agreed. And then too, because there's this unknown, um, yeah, like I didn't know there was gonna be like night sweats. I didn't know that I was gonna wake up and my bed would be soaked because I am
Hmm.
sweating. And I'm like, what is happening? I didn't know that. They said, oh, breastfeeding should be painful, but right? Oh, because if it's painful, then you're not latching. But what about the pain or discomfort that you feel when your uterus is
Mm.
shrinking back
Yeah.
into place?
Yeah.
I was not prepared for feeling that when breastfeeding. I'm like, there's so many things that I think was missed out. Um, like okay, and now I know they don't want to give you information overload, but I think I don't know about you, but for me, especially with my first baby, like you kind of like hyper focus on trying to
Mm.
get all the details and knowing all the things, right? So it's like, okay, well, you gotta get your hospital bag ready. You want to have everything you need for the baby. And yes, you do focus on the baby a lot, right? But like let me know. Please tell me what to expect. Because it's like, oh, what to expect when you're expecting. No, you didn't tell me what to expect after I give birth. You didn't tell me that. You didn't tell me, okay, well, make sure you pack some meals and put it in the freezer. If you have somebody to cook for you, get them to at least help you out with the meals for the first week because you will be so sleep deprived that all you could think about or all you could do is take care of baby and barely take care of yourself.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. You need community to help because all of your energy is going into keeping this new life alive and then also recovering because birth is a traumatic experience. We
Boy, it
know
was a
that
true.
whether you had a C-section or a vaginal birth, whether you had zero complications or a boatload of complications. It's always traumatic. And I love how you are bringing so many of the issues and conditions that women face throughout their lifespan
Yes.
to the forefront and giving them an opportunity not only to have their businesses supported, which is something you do through your consultancy work, but also to have a voice on your podcast. What inspired you specifically to create the podcast and have women from all varied professions come on and discuss these really important women's focused issues?
Well, thank you for that question. It really just stemmed from that experience, right? Having the community and the group and having all these women come together and help you out. But then we realize that they don't have all the answers. There are still gaps in, I guess, their solutions, quote unquote, and there's still gaps in their knowledge about certain things. So I don't think anybody was a doctor there, right, in the group. But this one lady, I remember, she messaged and she said, she's suffering with incontinence, right? And then the myriad of responses um, just made me think, okay, we gotta do something about this because some of them were telling them that telling the lady that I still wear diapers, I still wear adult diapers when I go, I still wear pads just in case something happens, when there's solutions out there that you could just you know engage with to just be better and get better. So I felt like there was still this disconnect when it comes to certain issues, and for whatever reason, whether they're embarrassed about it, um, you know, so maybe or didn't know about the variant options out there. Whatever it is, I still felt like there was a need for more education, for more talks, for more to kind of desensitize certain things that happen, because there's no way you should feel embarrassed about that.
Mm-hmm.
It really was just the fact that we still have questions. We still have questions, we still have problems, we still need answers. So I just wanted to create another platform or another avenue where I could provide women with the solutions, and just
Mm-hmm.
not just sorry medical specific medical advice, but life advice as well. Because the other thing is that I felt, we spoke about like midlife crisis on our chat, right? And we were like, whenever we watch movies and stuff, it was mainly men who, go through the midlife crisis with the motorcycle and the biker jacket, that kind of thing. But in actuality, we all kind of go through this kind of midlife crisis where we get to a point where we're like, am I doing what I want to do with my life? I'm halfway, through my life. Am I really doing, what it is that I want to be doing or I ought to be doing? Is this my purpose? That kind of thing. And like almost like a reset at that point where you're like, you know what? No, I don't want to do this anymore. I really want to pursue this particular passion or start doing this, right? So like just all these things that help you or you think about to help you navigate certain things, your career, your life, the medical things that happen, the things that will happen regardless, like menopause and perimenopause. Hello. We need help with all of these things. So that is why the guests are wide ranging that I have on the podcast. Because I do also want to speak to as many women as possible. Because say we might have a conversation about I think there was one about postpartum depression and anxiety, right? But not all women have kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did have a guest who she is like a fitness coach. She didn't have any kids, so then her, I guess, makeup, her life would be different than a woman who has one or two or three, kids. There were some women who are not married, but they have kids. So, like, there's so many varying kind of lifestyles that women have, but we still, need help through the different things. So that's why it's varied in terms of the guests, and I want to try to kind of hit all kind of facets of things that we go through. Um, so that's it.
Yeah, and you do it so beautifully. And for me, from my perspective, having listened to you host a panel and host your episodes, have these discussions with myself and other experts, is that you have this unique ability to ask the vulnerable, tough, sometimes what some people would think even embarrassing questions, but ask them with such vulnerability and openness that it does destigmatize them and allows everyone around you, whether with you on a panel or at home listening to the podcast, or following you on your social media on LinkedIn, Instagram, gives them the opportunity to benefit from you creating that space where those curious questions get asked. Because when we bring them into the light, when we say the hard thing, when we ask the question, we realize, then we get the answers that everyone's been waiting for, but maybe a lot of us have been too held back for whatever reason to
Yeah.
ask. And so I love your curious questions, and I so appreciate how you highlight that we need to create spaces that are inclusive, because again, we need to take ourselves out of isolation and create that community for everyone.
Yes. Yeah. And the big part of it for me too was we have internet, right?
Hmm.
We don't have to let geography be a, a factor. And in fact, all of the conversations that I've been having, you realize that we just experience the same things. Yes, the culture might be a little bit different for certain, depending on where you are, but we experience the same things, which is sad, um, really, because it's not like like, oh, like, if I go to Norway, for instance, then I will have the best care ever. You know what I mean? I don't know how it is in Norway. Norwegians don't get upset. But, you know, once I have conversations, ones that I've been having so far, it is just sad to hear that, we women aren't informed about our bodies, what to experience, and how to handle or control. And in fact, it's almost like brushed aside because, well, you can go through it anyways, and seem as meaningless when it's a huge deal for us, especially when we're going through it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want geography to be any issue at all, when it comes to us building a community, and having conversations about different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really my main aim. And to be honest, I do not know how far this will go. I do not know, how far it will, but it's exciting to think that, it will grow and it would blossom into something really, really beautiful. And my main aim really is to help. That's why the podcast is there, to connect, women to, these professionals, and how to, help and navigate, through life. And then the agency is to help the professionals reach, women, with their unique services. Right, so you have women, professionals who specialize in just like menopause, um, and, I want women to know, hello, yes, you could go to this particular specialist and they could just map out like the plan for you and how to just navigate whatever, like itchy ears. Who knew? Who knew? Especially like in perimenopause, apparently it starts. Like, really? Why is that a thing? Why is that a thing? We can't just have the menopause. We don't want a menopause at all, but we just can't have it. We have to have it before the menopause. I only found out about it last year, to be honest, that there was something called perimenopause, and that you could start getting all these weird symptoms. It's like, well, one, that explains a lot, and two,
Mm.
why? And three, that there was hardly any research going into it or anything that you could do to help with these symptoms, which is crazy if you think about it. But luckily, that is beginning to change slowly, but at least we're getting some sort of traction on that.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. And I think I want to highlight the importance of how we structure these conversations, because there are a lot of podcasts out there where there are amazing conversations that are a doctor like myself hosting another doctor, having these conversations. And the thing that can often happen when we are in groups of our peers is we speak in a
Yes,
shared language,
yes, yes,
because that's the most natural thing in the world. And we do that both professionally. We also do it, if you're someone who speaks Spanish and you live in a non-Spanish speaking country, it's not their primary language, and then you're with someone who speaks Spanish, you're going to be tempted and enjoy this opportunity to speak in your
yes,
shared language,
yes,
because that's what we do as
yes,
people. We love having that shared experience. And it's the same with things like medical jargon. Or if you get two engineers, they're going to use their engineering language, right? And it's really quickly evolving or devolving into a conversation that is more isolating than inclusive. And so I think that having these spaces where someone like yourself, who's very passionate about healthcare, but is not a healthcare professional, right? You're not a nurse, you're not a doctor, is asking these questions, because it leads to completely different conversations. And they are often the kind of conversations that are beyond the medical, because we want listeners to be going and seeing their OBGYN,
mm-hmm.
right? We want them to be having that healthcare and having those conversations,
Yes. Asking those questions when they go.
asking those medical questions, getting the appropriate answers. We want them to have that. We also want them to have access to conversations where, like you said, we talk about itchy ears,
Yeah.
because you're not going to talk about itchy ears when you're in your 15-minute appointment with your OBGYN. You're
No.
just not. It's
No.
it's most likely, maybe you will, but most likely you won't. And so there is a need for spaces where we talk about these other really impactful common experiences that women have throughout the timeline of their lives that we can learn from one another and share our wisdom. And so it's really interesting because there's healthcare, but there's also just this huge health and wellness space that we need to embrace so that people aren't going into things like childbirth, perimenopause, menopause, end of life care,
Mhm.
tackling working as a parent and raising young children, tackling dating, right? There are so many opportunities for us as a community to connect and share our wisdom. And I love that your show is creating in a health and wellness sector and sphere a place to share this wisdom beyond what you're going to get in that 15-30 minute appointment with your doctor, with your nurse practitioner. So it's such a beautiful opportunity to connect and learn from one another.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And like you said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not even a life coach. I am just a woman who's going through some stuff, and I thought maybe some other women are going through some stuff or some similar stuff. So I want to get the bottom of it. Maybe other women are interested in getting the bottom of it. Let's have a conversation about it. I'll ask you to break it down. Like if you give me like, oh, I don't know, macros and this kind of like, what does that mean exactly? I mean, because we say things and we kind of throw words around, but really, truly, some people don't understand what certain things mean, right? And that's my aim too with the agency, because it's like you got to break down things because it might come across like you're talking at people, right?
Mm,
You're saying, I don't know, you need to go and get your kidneys checked, but why? you know you know what I mean, like you need to tell me why, like what's going on with my kidneys that I should be
yeah,
looking out for. Break down exactly what the process of how the kidneys work, something like that, so we can
right.
understand more. I think once we understand more, then we're more informed and knowledgeable to take certain steps or actions, right? Because
Yeah.
we and I guess women might be, hmm, I'm trying to decide if women or men do this, but something might happen to us or we might be going through something. I don't know whether, we're going to the bathroom too often and we just kind of like, okay, that's normal. That's natural. You know what I mean? I'll just get over it. I'll just go through it. But really, it's truly, the gut specialist or the gut health specialist, when they post their content, can really say, okay, well, if you're going to the bathroom too often, maybe you need to look at your gut health. Maybe you're not, I don't know, eating enough of this or whatever, because they're the experts, right? Or the nutritionists or so on, right? Let's kind of
Yeah.
tackle the issues or even address whatever issues at the most basic level. I'm not saying to talk to people like stupid, but just like talk to us so that we can understand what you're saying.
Hmm. Yeah, because you're the expert in you, but you need to
Yes,
understand, well, why I only have so much energy. I'm really busy. I have only so many financial resources, so much time. My kids need me to pick them up, or I'm really busy at work. Why do I need to make this appointment for this mammogram? Why do I need to make this appointment to have my blood drawn to look
mm-hmm.
at my GFR, to look at my kidney function?
Yeah.
How is my blood going to tell me about my kidney function? Right? That's crazy. It's just, and sometimes there may be a culture in someone's life where they are distrusting of
Mm-hmm.
medical care or certain types of medical care, maybe modern medical care or labs for a variety of reasons, for things that have happened in their lifetime or their parents, their grandparents' lifetime. So asking the curious questions and really getting on one another's level and connecting as people is so important. So I love you leaning into that. And it makes me think about something that occurred during your recent panel. Now, you just hosted and arranged a wonderful panel that took place on International Women's Day called Empowering Women's Sexual Health, Navigating Intimacy and Wellness, which was an open and insightful conversation with leading experts in women's health. You had wonderful speakers and experts in their fields on the panel, and it really, truly was very impactful. And one of the most interesting things for me was listening to you direct the conversation in this conversation, you were, as I said earlier in our discussion, you were asking those really insightful, curious, vulnerable questions. And it was just really opening up not only an atmosphere of, okay, we can ask these questions, right? She who goes first sets the tone, and you are setting the tone of we can ask these open, vulnerable questions and get the answers we really want to know and kind of go below that surface level that we usually get. If we're just listening to a podcast or just reading an article, we can really get down to the nitty-gritty things that we want the answers to. So not only were you able to do that, but you were able to create a space where the momentum, which is so important, the momentum went where it needed to go in that moment. It really met women where they were, not only with those curious questions about health, about women's health, women's sexual health, which was really what we were there for.
Yeah.
But we have to understand this was International Women's Day 2025.
Yeah.
A lot of women around the world were feeling a lot of pain
Yeah.
and anger
Yeah.
and fear.
Yeah.
And so we were there to talk about women's health. But as you have discussed earlier in our conversation, it's not just about women's health, it's about women's experiences.
Mhm.
And when we talk to experts, we don't just want to know the data and, the actionable advice for what to do for my sexual health. So do Kegels, right? It's not just about that. It's about the information regarding mindset, mental health, how our experience of life will affect not only our mental health, but our physical bodies. And this panel, we really spent a lot of time focusing on the fact that if we are not tending to our mental health and our self, then the other things aren't going to function the way that they should. Our
Yeah.
experience of life and our health won't be what it could be with becoming more focused on the self and what we need as women and as people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so glad that it kind of blossomed into that, right? And again, the panel, just brilliant, brilliant women. Dr. Kristen, for instance, she brought the mental health side, but then Dr. Corona and Dr. Bourbon, they really focused on it as well, and like kind of taking care of you and figuring out what you need. Um, and yeah, you're right. Talks don't normally go that way. Like you say, it would be very healthy to take your hormones or do your Kegels or your that kind of thing. But yeah, do we really think about why we think the way we think about our sexual health and intimacy? So I was really happy that the conversation kind of went really deep, and the panelists got vulnerable as well, which I think helped to make it even better, and for the women in the audience to open up even more, because the yes, they had on the doctor professional hat, but they also had on the I am a woman going through things as well hat, which was really,
Mm-hmm.
really lovely to see and to hear.
I think that as a woman in a profession, especially early on in our careers, because often we are entering into these male dominated fields,
Yeah.
we are encouraged, or simply our limiting beliefs are directing us from things that we've learned earlier in life, maybe not even in that field, but at home, in schooling. We are encouraged or of the belief that we need to lean into being more male. We need to lean into being masculine and macho and quote unquote professional, some sort of amalgam in our minds we've created about what professional looks like.
Right.
But if you take a step back and in medicine, in my field, and you look at the studies, patients have better outcomes, statistically speaking, with women physicians.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because they're pretending to be male physicians.
Yeah.
It's because they have a unique skill set that they are bringing to that doctor-patient relationship that for certain patients is really effective in helping them on their healthcare journey. And
Yeah.
that's because they're female physicians. Those studies show that there is something unique that
Yeah.
they're bringing. And so as we go through our lives, and as you mentioned earlier about that midlife crisis that you and I have discussed on that episode that we had, that very candid conversation that wasn't even, our discussion wasn't even a podcast episode. It was just a
No.
discussion
Yes.
that then
Yes.
we said, you know what, we're not going to schedule the podcast. We're just going to air this,
Yes.
which
Yes.
I think was really unique and interesting to go about it that way.
Yes.
And those are the discussions that we need. We need the frank
Mm-hmm.
discussions, and we need
Mm-hmm.
to connect as our authentic selves. And so as we go through that midlife reclamation of who we are as people, and we start to take away those layers of who have I been pretending to be?
Right.
What roles and mannerisms, ideas, beliefs have I taken on that don't belong to me? Learning how to strip those away and let go of them, take the lessons from your experience and lean into who you truly are, and bring that to your career, to your profession, whether you're a physician, a nurse, an expert in science, a romantic relationship expert, a sex coach. You've had so many interesting people on your show and in your discussions that are leaning into their their personal, just complete, authentic, vulnerable selves, and bringing that to the table, and really making the most of how they can show up for their audience and
Yeah.
your audience.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so impactful, how you again create these spaces where people feel free to do that, because I think that is what that midlife reclamation is really about.
Yeah.
It's leaning into that.
Yes. Yes. Interesting enough, too, right? My observation is the older my guests are, right? The more interesting the backstory is.
Mm.
Because and I can understand it too to a point because when you're younger, you kind of just go with the flow, like like I studied this, so therefore I will be this, right? Yes, some of us like we had a little like, oh, I don't know what to do, but you kind of just fall into line at certain points. But then either there's a midlife crisis or there's like a turning point in your life, where you're like, I really want to do this and I really want to focus on this. So that's why one of my first questions always is like got you started into what you're doing, what led you here, because it's usually a really, really good backstory. Um, uh, Dr. Borber, for instance, on her podcast, and she spoke about she was primarily a Western medicine doctor, so she had an experience where I think she was referred a patient to write a prescription. She said the prescription was just long, right? And she was like, no, there must be more to this than this big long prescription of drugs that you're taking. So then she took the time to actually kind of speak to the patient and find out what was going on to see a more holistic view of their health as opposed to just trying to treat these symptoms, right? She even closed her practice. She went to study functional medicine. So then when she came back, now then she could have like that more holistic approach to, treatments. And then she also firsthand experienced when she was a patient, people not seeing her, but just seeing, the treatment. So it then shaped how she then runs her practice and then how she pivoted, what she was doing to be more holistic approach, which I completely love. So the backstory of how people get into what they're doing, especially women, I find is such a inspiring one, and hopefully it reminds them of what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing, and gives them that extra push. Because I'm not saying that you're gonna love what you're doing every day, right? There will be ups and downs in business, like in any business. But I'm hoping that that is like a really nice reminder of your purpose and why you're doing what you're doing, and help to give or bring back that fulfillment in life. when it comes to, personal and professional development. So, yeah.
And to show that evolution, you really highlight through sharing not just where someone is right now, but sharing that story of how they got to where they are.
Mhm.
It not only demonstrates our ability to grow and the fact that most of us have had to replant ourselves, right?
Yes.
We've had to repot ourselves over time. We can't stay stagnant because we just naturally outgrow.
Yeah.
We have to find the spaces that will be there for us in this next season, and that's okay. I think a lot of us, especially in professions that require a lot of schooling, and a lot of, certifications and things of that manner, because of how much time we've spent investing into this and, tears, sleepless nights, our youth, after all of that has been invested, change can be really scary because
Yes.
you've been on this journey, and many of us in the medical field, we're not told, enjoy the journey. We're told, we'll keep doing this because this is the next step to,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
basically Z, right?
Yeah.
Once you graduate, that's Z.
Yeah.
But then you get to Z, and it's kind of like when you have a big goal and you accomplish that goal. Once you accomplish it, it can feel as if, oh gosh, everything my life has been about surrounded achieving this. And now I've achieved it, but I'm still me, right?
Yeah.
Like, and am I going to spend the rest of my life in pursuit of goals, or am I going to spend the rest of my life in pursuit of purpose?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what you really help pull out with your guests is, what is your purpose and when in life? Because most of us, again, we're so caught up in reaching our goals that we don't even have time or energy or focus on our purpose. And so I think that's
Hmm.
a beautiful mission you have to help people to see those purpose guided missions, especially around the sector of health and wellness, and give people this opportunity to get curious about what that means for them and their life's journey and their goals and what they want to do with the time that they have.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting that we don't really care about health and wellness when we're younger? What health and wellness is that?
Mm,
You know what I mean? And even up to now, it still kind of has like this what do I call it, like a barricade of like, oh, health, you know, ugh, health, because it means, maybe our perception is that it means nothing fun, all boring things,
mm,
and all serious and sad things and negative things, right? Because when
mm,
everybody talk about health, it usually means, oh, I got a problem, right?
mm,
And or um, oh, I gotta lose weight, I gotta stop eating this thing, you know what I mean? Like it always has like this kind of negative connotation to it, right? So I'm still trying to break that barrier when it comes to putting out a health and wellness podcast. Because yes, the mentality might be a health and wellness podcast, you know what I mean? So I really want to kind of tackle the the issues that are not talked about as often, and the underlying kind of issues that we wanna tackle. Um, so that really is a big part of it as well. I do not want it to be seen at this kind of high level, we just talking about, I don't know, very high level medical topics and that kind of thing. I do want to talk about it from a more casual, um I want to basic, but like just a more relatable aspect. That's the main thing. um don't want it to be high level. I don't want, again, we talk about macros and no, let's talk about, all right, well, you're different, your body type might be different, your metabolism, what is metabolism, it might be different. So you might need to find what works for you. What if I have, again, uh 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 three kids, and I feel like I have no time to, think about me and what I do,
Mm.
and exercising and eating properly, and then how do I navigate that? So those are the kind of, I guess, level. That's the kind of level I want the podcast to be at.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the real life level. That's the level we need to connect with people is explain to me. And it's not, when I think about it, about how to phrase that, it's not how or why. It's really the connection through the stories.
Yes.
That's where we can really find pieces of our own story reflected back to us. And when we do that, we can say, okay, I'm inspired now.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm going
Yeah.
to take this bit that resonated with me, and not every bit's going to resonate with
No.
every person, but I'm
Mhm.
going to take this bit that resonated with me and I'm going to put it, it's almost like I'm creating this belief in myself that unfortunately maybe I haven't had up until this point, that my health matters, and
Mhm.
that to be a good mom means I invest in myself.
Yeah.
To be a good wife, to be a good partner, to be a an exceptional member of my community or an exceptional colleague at work or a leader is not just to give of myself, but it is to give to myself. And so these little bits and pieces from these stories that we experience, we kind of put into this amalgam of self empowerment, because so many of us have been walking through life missing this. And we need to reach a critical mass that tips over the scale and sets us on that momentum, on that path of really
Mhm.
reclaiming our stories and
Yeah.
really leaning into, oh my gosh, this is actually my life, right? Like, I don't need to buy this product to look like this person. I don't need to lose weight to look like this person. I don't need to do any of it. I don't need to drive this car or have this kind of house or have this career. I
Yeah.
need to be me, and I
Yeah.
need to invest in the things that promote my health and
Yeah.
wellness. Health and
Yeah.
wellness is not something external. It's turning within.
Yeah.
And so helping people recognize that it's not a short-term process. It's storytelling, it's support, it's sitting beside someone on their journeys so that they can really start to internalize that belief of self-love and how important it is for their health and wellness and for them really taking back their autonomy in life. So I just applaud you for the work you're doing on your podcast and with your panels. I have told you before, I really champion the structure of the panels, and I really believe in a world where we see a lot of things. We see a lot of courses
Yes.
and handouts and things like that that may be helpful for some people or at a certain place in their journey. But I think the more impactful opportunity is, as we said, through storytelling, and through storytelling that isn't just one-sided, but that it opens us up to connection. So through this show, through your show, it's leaving a comment under the show that we can engage in and that can inspire us on our future content, our future guests, our future
Yeah.
discussions. Like,
Yeah.
that community is so important. And that's what I experienced through your panel, and I would love to see more of, and can't wait to follow your journey and encourage our listeners to follow your journey, because those discussions are really where we find such deep inspiration, and it makes us want to have the next discussion and the next
Mhm.
discussion, and let's collaborate, let's connect, let's do this project together. And it's endless, the possibilities that come of those connections with other women who are really like-minded but with different talents,
Yes. Yes.
to come together to build one another up and create this beautiful future together.
Yes. I love that. And I would encourage all your listeners as well to comment, and I know some people are a little shy because they would not comment on the YouTube video or even on the post on Instagram, but they would send me a DM. Even if you do that, I appreciate that, because um, we still have to break that mindset about, things being embarrassing or not, oh, I can't talk about
Mm.
that. I can't mention that because it's embarrassing. We still have work to do there. So I still do encourage women to just reach out, um, and I am trying to build a space. Now that you mention it, because you did ask if there's anything that I want to mention. Now that you mention it, I do want to kind of build a community, a safe space that women can discuss, whatever's undermined, and it not be a public space. So I am creating a
Mm.
community because I am actually quite protective over the webinar that we had,
Mm.
and I don't want to. I want to say betray in a way the discussions that were so sensitive. So I think what I'm gonna
Mm.
do is to put that video in the community. So because I was gonna put it on YouTube and I was like, no, it didn't feel right to do so because I feel like
Mm.
even though I want women to be included, I also don't want them to be exploited, right? Or
Mm.
feel like they're being exploited. So I actually became quite sensitive about it. I was like, this is such a great topic. This was such a great discussion. Everybody was so vulnerable. How do I protect that in a way that is still
Mm.
beneficial to every woman that came and who wanted to come, but not be disadvantageous to the contribution that they made, and like stopping them from being more vocal about things that affected them. So I think I might yeah, create a community, put a video there so you could come in and watch the video and then keep the discussion going outside of the wider kind of public.
Mhm.
I think I might do that because yeah, when we post things online, we not just posting for women, and
Mhm.
there are some women we have to agree are not on board with what you're doing either, and women are women's
Mm.
biggest critics, unfortunately. But then you have men who will come in there and say, oh, but and they have their opinions on things that we go through. Oh, menopause ain't real. What? You mean like so? Yes, I want to be, I guess, as protective as possible of our community and how we engage. So that is one thing. That is the one big thing. I am thinking about a way to start like a really nice community so we could keep the conversations going and we could have our panels and discuss whatever issues, and that the physicians as well, the doctors, can come and feel vulnerable and share, because I think that's when we really connect.
Absolutely. I think it's so important to be honest about the structure because when I go to a scientific conference, again, it's all about that meeting people where they are and that shared language. There's going to be a level of discussion that happens there versus if I'm in a clinic and having a discussion there, that's going to be a different discussion. Or if I'm having coffee with a friend, that's a different discussion. And capturing and sharing it in a way that is respectful is so key. And again, that comes down to I think the importance of what you're doing and how you're doing it to allow people to feel vulnerable and share these important stories and connect with one another. So I love that. And on a last note of something that you've discussed recently on LinkedIn, and everyone go follow Mialisa on her LinkedIn account because she posts really wonderful things. You've discussed why women's voices matter and women's health discussions. And you noted how common it is to see really big male led platforms actually running these conversations. And here in the United States, that's something that, is, when we talk about how everyone was feeling on International Women's Day, it's something that's on the top of our minds is seeing women lose some ground and feeling like we're starting to lose our seat at the table. And you are advocating for making sure that that changes. How do you want to work towards changing that so that women have a seat at that table and are a part of the discussion about women's health?
Oh my gosh, if I could just rival Stephen Bartlett and who's the other one? No, Andrew Huberman, and then Jay Shetty. Like, come on, ladies. Like, I reach out. Yeah, this is a sore point because I've reached out to, women who have sort of big voices within this space, completely ignore me, right?
Mm,
Even though I try to kind of say, hey, look, can you lend? I know I'm small, but can you lend to this conversation because you are like a big voice in the menopause space or the life course space, that kind of thing. You say no to me, but then you go to, these male podcasters. Yes, I understand there's a balance between you getting your name out there, but then also you pursuing your purpose. But I just want to say,
mm,
for for me who, yes, want to push women's health as a woman, and I'm appealing to you as a female in your craft and doing what you're doing, can we just help each other out here? Like, can we just come on, guys? Like, it's no, come on. I don't charge anybody to come on your show. It is I call it complimentary service because I do everything in background. All you gotta do is show up, speak your truth, share your advice to the people that you say that you serve, right?
mm,
Women that you say that you're advocating for, right? And just let us go from there, right? And I believe that would also help you um, with your exposure as well. Uh,
mm,
I do, and I find it so. Mel Robbins, she's a big one, and she's growing on her own without the help really of anybody. She had Oprah on for crying out loud, so she's doing really well for herself. Um, But yes, all the other docs do not. I mean, you can do what you want, but in a space or avenue where you can, I guess, yeah, just speak with a small podcaster about issues affecting women and expound your reach as well, expand your reach because where I am, right, and my audience, yes, there's US, but then the majority of it is Caribbean as well because I am in the Caribbean and that's how the algorithm works. So fortunately, they try to
mm,
just pigeonhole you geographically, but expand your reach that way because I do believe that all women need to hear what you are researching and what is new on the horizon for different things. Like, don't be limited in your mindset when it comes to, your experience and your expertise, right? So that is mainly my thing. I would interview once you can speak English because I can't speak your language unless we get that big that we get translators. Maybe we'll get that big. Once you can speak English, I don't care where you're from. I think I have a guess. She is from Romania and the accent's a little thick. I'm gonna have to put closed captions on there, but I don't care because she has a story, she has
mm,
a solution, and she shares in her expertise. So that would probably be my last thing. Do not don't limit yourself and don't think that you also don't feel like you have to go to the big names as well to get your name out there, right? I think you could do it strategically and on your own. And because we support the male podcasters in all different ways, and so they dominate when really and truly
mm,
we have geniuses on the female side. And it's
mm.
not a male versus female thing, and I hope that came across in the blog post. It is more
Yeah.
like we also have like a presence and a voice and the expertise and level and deserve to be on the same level, if not higher, when it comes to podcasting and health and wellness. Like, why is a guy speaking about women's health and wellness? I don't mind you talking about it, but why are you the top voice?
Mm,
That's all I'm saying.
right.
Why are you the top voice?
It's It's an important question. Again, I really appreciate how you bring these questions up because often we don't ask the difficult questions, but they deserve answers. And there is room enough at this table for all of us.
Yeah.
And there is so much to be gained by sharing our stories with one another, comparing notes,
Mhm.
and moving forward with that shared knowledge. And when someone doesn't give us a seat at the table, we have to create a new table and invite others to sit with us
Yeah.
and keep our energy on our table. And great things are going to happen. And I know great things are going to happen with your work. And I'm so excited to follow along with your journey and follow along with the podcast. We're going to be having many shared guests coming up soon on Talks with Dr. Shafer because of the panel discussion and how inspiring that was. And so I won't give away too much because it's very exciting. I'm excited to have those
Woo,
conversations too. And they
nice.
are all thanks to your community building. And I'm so grateful for that. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Dr. Schaefer. We do just have that. And I mean, we saw that we know each other for years, and that's not true, right? But because we have such these relatable experiences, is why we're able to just kind of be like friends and not even know each other for a time. So I do thank you for and it takes two, yes. So I thank you for your, I guess, your feelings, your attitude, and your actions towards me as well, being just kind and positive. Yes.
That is the community that we want to build. And I'm so grateful that we are a part of this shared community
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
I want to continue to work with you to build this table because that's what we need to do. Tell me how listeners can join you at your table, join you in your community so that they can connect with you after the show.
Well, what's the easiest way? I am on everything. So you could LinkedIn, Twitter, not Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, IG, Facebook, and of course the website. So anything, just DM me. You can give me your email address. I can add you to our mailing list so you don't miss anything that's coming up. And then of course of the community. If you're on IG, it's called It's Mialisa. So at It's Mialisa, and just send me a DM. I'll gladly welcome you into the fold. Like actually, IG has been going pretty well. I think they're at 12K now. Um, and so yeah, that really is the biggest community, and people actually DMing and reaching out, that kind of thing. So yeah, feel free to just look me up, reach out to me anyway, and I will get you into our community and into the fold.
You don't want to miss anything. There's so many exciting things coming up, and the community and future panels and future podcasts, so
Yeah.
much to connect with and learn from. Thank you again for being on the show. And thank you so much to our storytellers for being here. It's been an inspiring episode, and I can't wait to hear your comments. As Mialisa said during the show, we want to hear those. So please send us messages, comment on the show, ask her questions, ask me questions. We would love to answer them. And again, create a real community with you. Please subscribe to the show so you don't miss our upcoming inspiring guest episodes with people who have reclaimed their story and are living incredible, inspiring lives, just like the one we had today, and short talks where we work on mastering our mindset from a neuroscience informed perspective. Until next time, stay safe and take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Everybody's lonely, but you can hold on to